Thank you, brethren, for being here. I'm delighted to be back with you in the province of East Kent. Brethren, this talk is in the form of a letter to a new Freemason. And now I offer new brethren my personal 7 top tips to help them get the most value and satisfaction from their membership. 7 is a number that keeps cropping up in Freemasonry. Perhaps it's a coincidence that I also offer lodges 7 habits that they can follow to become highly successful. But that's another talk, and as Steve has mentioned, it's a book. My top tips are based on 3 things. First of all, on my own experiences at all levels of Freemasonry. Secondly, on my hope that lodges will continually adapt and modernise their management practices to suit today's lifestyles. And lastly, on my wish to see lodges abandon any one-size-fits-all mindsets, any conveyor belts, and adopt instead a member-centric approach. Brethren, I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And I welcome your comments and your questions at the end. And to do that, and to make it really easy, could I ask you, as I go through the talk, use the chat function to just type your questions in, and Steve or Fraser will pick those up and pitch them to me when we get to the end of the talk itself. So here are my top tips for a new Freemason. Or rather, my letter addressed to a new Mason. So, dear brother, I wholeheartedly congratulate you on becoming a Freemason. You've taken a step that will give you some of the most satisfying and enjoyable experiences of your life. Embrace Freemasonry, and it will help you to grow, to become a better person, and to have a greater positive impact on the lives of others. Having taken this same step some while before you, I hope that my 7 top tips will be of some use. And they're as follows. Number 1, understand what it is you have joined. Did you know, for example, that when you became a Freemason, you actually joined 2 quite distinct things? The first is a worldwide brotherhood or fraternity built on enduring principles, which communicates the moral lessons of Freemasonry to its initiates through ritual. The second is a membership organisation that is over 300 years old, which has a member of the royal family at its head, has a well-defined set of rules, a hierarchical structure, and a distinct culture and methods of working. Within the universe, or perhaps it's a multiverse called Freemasonry, there are many facets, many versions, many interpretations, many branches, and many approaches. Some of these are legitimate, others are not. One thing is constant. Having taken your obligations, you will always be a Freemason. You cannot undo this. And the obligations are binding on you as a matter of honour and trust for as long as you live and wherever you go in the world. You've also joined a lodge, which is one part of a larger membership organisation called a Grand Lodge. In my case, and your case too, that is the United Grand Lodge of England, whose origins date back over 300 years. It's one of many Grand Lodges around the world. In fact, it is the oldest Grand Lodge in Freemasonry. Incidentally, most Grand Lodges have several regional bodies between them and their lodges. These might be called metropolitan, provincial, or district Grand Lodges. And this talk today is organised by the Provincial Grand Lodge of East Kent. Now, you have promised to abide by the rules of your lodge and your Grand Lodge, and you were presented with a copy of these at your initiation. They are in the Book of Constitutions. Being a member of a lodge and of the United Grand Lodge of England gives you certain privileges, including being able to visit other lodges. You can join additional lodges, and you can resign from all or one of them. However, if you resign or fail to pay your annual subscription, you lose the privileges that come with membership. Some of the things you will experience as a Freemason will be as a result of joining the worldwide and lifelong brotherhood. Other things will be because of the membership organisation. I will highlight some of these points as we progress. But there is one thing I should explain now. The worldwide brotherhood, the ritual and its meaning, are timeless and enduring. It has changed very little over time, and that is part of its appeal. The membership organisation, however, like all organisations, does evolve and change to remain relevant and aligned to our changing lifestyles. Regrettably, many lodges changed very little in the latter half of the 20th century, so we're now playing catch-up. Today, United Grand Lodge of England is going through major changes. However, many of our lodges have not yet adjusted their practices to suit 21st century lifestyles and mindsets. Many of our processes need updating and improvement, but let me assure you, change is happening. So please be patient and understanding of others, whilst also making your own views and needs clear. So what's my next big piece of advice? Number 2, engage with your lodge, its activities and its members. Lodges are fundamental to Freemasonry. They are where Freemasonry happens. They are where we learn what being a Freemason means, where we experience the ritual, and where we form our closest bonds. The first lodge you join is your mother lodge. I hope you chose well, because your mother lodge is very important. Whatever other lodges you join in Freemasonry, try to remain with your mother lodge, even if changing circumstances mean you can only attend on occasions. Your lodge, being a membership unit within a bigger organisation, relies on its members taking part in its activities for it to function. So, I recommend that you attend as many activities as you can, whether they be lodge meetings, lodges of instruction, committee meetings, rehearsals, and social events. Wherever possible, book or submit your apologies early so that others can make the necessary arrangements. If you're uncertain whether you can be present, let them know that too. Get into the habit of keeping in regular contact with your lodge secretary. The more they understand you and your circumstances, the better. In your early meetings, you will have an experienced member sit with you. Observe what is going on and follow the advice you're given. Someone should also accompany you out of the lodge whilst it is conferring degrees you've not yet received. Use the time to ask them questions about what you have observed and anything else you wish to know. Try to get to know as many different members as you can. Good ways of doing this are becoming a lodge steward by selling raffle tickets, offering to help set up a meeting, or organising a social event. I like to sit with different people at each lodge meal, and I make this known to my lodge secretaries. In many lodges, the key offices tend to be occupied by experienced and older Freemasons who sometimes forget what it is like to be new and may not understand your circumstances and the pressures on you. They may assume you know and understand things which are still foreign to you. Bear in mind, we are all volunteers and that, especially in smaller lodges, some officers are very stretched. Sadly, the quality of the member experience is not always what it should be. So, while you might feel frustrated at times with your lodge, please remember others are doing the best they can. The more you engage, the more others will understand you, and the more you can be a positive influence within your lodge. If you believe you can contribute to the life of your lodge, please offer your time and skills. Some of the things that need doing require knowledge, skills, and experience specific to Freemasonry, and these can only be acquired over time and practice. However, other tasks require generalist skills that you may already have and which you bring with you. To give a personal example, as a newly raised Master Mason, I was asked to be my mother lodge's charity steward, as well as to follow the progressive offices to the chair. Some of the traditionalists sniffed a little. After all, it was 30 years ago. But I persevered, and it led ultimately to my becoming a trustee of 4 Freemasonry charities, including the Masonic Charitable Foundation and Lifelights, of which I'm now chair. My final point under this tip is make sure your activities in Freemasonry have the support of your partner. The nature of that support is a private matter, but it's difficult to get the best out of your membership if your partner does not support your involvement. Many lodges are family friendly. They make it easy for our families to get involved, to enjoy the social, if not the esoteric aspects of Freemasonry, if they so wish. However, some partners tell us that they feel left out, and this can lead to problems. Remember, you can talk about all aspects of Freemasonry with your partner, as long as you don't reveal the signs, tokens, and words of each degree. So, lodges need time, skills, energy, and enthusiasm. If you, and possibly your family, can give these, please do so, with the following proviso. And that's tip number 3. Keep seeking what you are seeking. Each of us join Freemasonry for our own very personal reasons. There are at least 9 different main reasons why people do join. However, as these are quite broad and diverse, we sometimes find that people don't always get what they're looking for as early as they would like. Some of these reasons are more to do with the wider fraternity aspect of Freemasonry, and some are more to do with the membership organisation parts. It's also the case that over time you will seek different things from Freemasonry. The reason we joined is not always the reason we continue in membership. It's a very healthy thing to review these issues regularly and to ask yourself what you're seeking now. This will help you focus your attention and get the right support. The primary means of support in your early years will be through your personal mentor. This is an experienced Freemason assigned to you by your lodge. Their role is to help you get the information, support, and personal contact you want and need. The idea is to respond to your wishes and preferences, to make Freemasonry's offer of a special form of personal development very real for you. Now, there are 2 key things here. First, make sure your personal mentor is someone you feel you can get on with, who is supportive of you and willing to give you time. Secondly, some mentors misunderstand their role and think it is to teach you what they think you should learn about Freemasonry. You see, some lodges, especially the more traditional and those which are low in membership and are stretched, operate a sort of conveyor belt approach to Freemasonry, where new members are asked to follow a route laid down by others rather than follow their personal journey. To make your journey in Freemasonry more member-centric, please make it clear to your personal mentor what you are seeking. Ask them to help you learn at your pace, in your preferred way, and to help you find answers to your questions. That said, there are some fundamental things the lodge will rightly want you to learn in your early meetings. These include the structure of a lodge meeting and festive board, some basic aspects of etiquette and protocol, and lodge traditions or conventions. These may appear strange at first, but please respect them. Go with the flow and ask questions. Some features will be common to all or most lodges, while others will be unique to your lodge or province. When you visit other lodges, you will appreciate how varied Freemasonry can be, and yet how much we all have in common. So I suggest you arrange to meet with your personal mentor at intervals to suit you. Always have some questions to ask and try to undertake some personal learning between your meetings. There are plenty of resources available for this, including Solomon, which is United Grand Lodge's online learning platform. If you've not already registered for Solomon, please do so before you leave here today by going to, and I'm going to give you a web link here, and it's https://solomon.ugle.org.uk. I should add that that web address is not found through a Google search, and it doesn't use www as a prefix. So carrying on, as you progress, keep asking questions. Seek out the members who seem to be in the know and ask them to explain or clarify things that you don't understand. You may not always get a complete or satisfactory answer, however. This may be because the person you ask is not too sure themselves, in which case your question may prompt them to do some research of their own. Or it may be that you ask something for which there is no categorical or definitive answer. Freemasonry communicates its meaning through symbols and stories or allegory. These lend themselves to different interpretations based upon insight and contemplation. A good mentor will help you develop an interpretation that is appropriate or relevant to you at the current time. And this nicely takes me on to my next top tip, number 4. Study the ritual. The ritual of Freemasonry is how it communicates its meaning. It developed into its current form in the early 19th century, although its origins go back at least 100 years before then. It has changed very little in the last 200 years, although there are many variations or workings, as they are called. Freemasonry in many countries uses a different form of the ritual, although most that you come across will have familiar elements. However, there are some organizations calling themselves Freemasons whom we do not recognize as such. This is because they do not conform to certain standards or criteria, including requiring a belief in a supreme being. We should not attend meetings of such lodges or allow their members to attend ours. Back to the ritual. We first come across the ritual of a particular degree when that degree is conferred upon us. At that point, we have little hope of remembering much of the detail and are often left confused with many questions. So, my tip is get a copy of the ritual for each degree as soon as possible and start reading it. In fact, read it over and over. The ritual is rich with stories, symbols, and sometimes with characters. Each has a moral meaning or lesson. Look for the underlying pattern and the key messages. Study the addresses and the working tools. Consider how you can apply these to your own life and behavior. Recognize that the stories in the ritual are not literal or true history. Much of it is derived from biblical stories which have been embellished to communicate in story or allegorical form our values and principles and our esoteric knowledge. Then seek an opportunity to discuss your interpretation of the ritual with others. This could be with your personal mentor or at a lodge of instruction, a study group, or simply over a pint. The more you study the ritual, the easier you will find it is to learn. At some point, you're likely to be invited to deliver some ritual for a ceremony. Quite possibly, the first thing you will be asked to do is deliver the working tools. So I recommend that you start by learning these. The first step to learning any ritual is to confirm all the words, their meaning, and their pronunciation with an experienced member. Then record the passage, leaving spaces for the signs, tokens, and words. These are the so-called secrets of the degree. Play back the whole recording to get the rhythm and flow clear in your mind. Then start repeating it out loud as you play the recording. When you think you have the sense of it, try repeating it without playing back the recording. Start with just one sentence, gradually adding more sentences as you grow in confidence and capability. You may ask a family member to help you, providing you do not allow anyone who is not a Freemason to read, see, or hear any sign, token, or word. If you're asked to deliver some ritual for a lodge meeting, make sure you have enough time to learn it. If you do not, politely decline and explain why, and immediately offer to do it at a later meeting. In the lead up to delivering ritual at a lodge meeting, ask others to listen to you. without correcting every minor error. Try to practice in your own lodge room to get the feel of the place. When it comes to the meeting itself, remember that everyone around you wants you to succeed. They're there to support you. And also remember that Freemasonry is not theatre, and we're not performing a Shakespearean play. We don't require word-perfect precision. Small slips are acceptable. What really matters is the meaning, how you communicate that to another person, and what they take away from the experience. So after you've delivered the ritual, reflect on what you did well, not on any errors. As you progress, I advise you to keep the ritual nearby and to refer to it often. Top up your previous learning, review your understanding, and revise your interpretation. Freemasonry really is a lifelong study, and the ritual lies at the core of it. Learning to love it, to understand it, and to be able to deliver it will bring you a lot of satisfaction, and quite possibly a lot of invites to visit and assist other lodges. Well, this gives me another pivot to my top tip number 5 for a new Freemason. Number 5 is extend beyond your own lodge. Your mother lodge is your home base. You should always prioritize its meetings, and whatever else you do in Freemasonry, give it your full support. However, one lodge is unlikely to satisfy all you want. Lodges in this country meet at most once per month, and many less than that. However knowledgeable and experienced the members of one lodge will be, they will not know all you might want to learn. Thankfully, there are many ways to extend your knowledge and your network and your experience. One of the most common pieces of advice I was offered was to visit other lodges, and I support this absolutely. Visiting allows you to observe without any pressure to contribute. It widens your perspective as you witness different ways of doing things. It introduces you to different people and their wisdom and friendship. It helps you appreciate that Freemasonry really is universal. Don't just visit other lodges local to you. Stretch your cable toe to visit lodges in other towns, other provinces, and if possible, even overseas. Another great way to extend your network is to join and get involved with a light blues club. Almost every province has one or more of these, which are for new Freemasons and those who've not been promoted to provincial rank. They're self-governed by new or younger Freemasons, so are very focused on what they want and need. Many lodges have only a small number of brethren progressing at the same time, so they cannot provide much contact with people in similar situations. Light blues clubs can. Their members are at a similar stage in their journey in Freemasonry. So members progress together through the degrees, the lodge offices, and into the chairs of their respective lodges. Light blues clubs tend to offer a balance of social and educational experiences. As the proud honorary member of one light blues club and as a speaker to a good number, I wholeheartedly endorse their purpose and their activities. If you've not joined one yet, please do so. Progressing onwards, as you get more involved in Freemasonry, you will become increasingly aware of your provincial Grand Lodge and what it has to offer in the way of meetings, learning opportunities, and new friendships. Incidentally, if you are in a London lodge, you will be part of Metropolitan Grand Lodge, and if you're in an English lodge overseas, you will be part of a group or a district Grand Lodge. You won't see the degrees practiced in provincial meetings. In fact, there are very few esoteric elements outside of lodge meetings. However, you can get the chance to witness other ceremonies, such as the consecration of a new lodge. If you're especially interested in the ritual, you can join study circles and lodges of instruction, and perhaps get the chance to learn and deliver the craft lectures. For those interested in charity, there are opportunities to support our fundraising appeals, known as charity festivals. Finally, many lodges are formed around a special interest or connection, and so are part of the university scheme or of a lodge association. Meetings of lodge associations can be great fun and bring you together with brethren from around the country. Freemasonry offers many opportunities that complement and enhance what is offered in lodges, However, they can never replace the special bond you will form in your mother lodge or in other lodges you join. And that brings me to the next top tip. Know, but constantly review your own limits. As Freemasons, we're taught to be cautious. The enthusiastic Freemason will be wise to apply this to the extent of our involvement and commitment. Freemasonry is scalable. Your involvement can be limited to one lodge that meets 4 times a year, or you can be out 6 nights a week. Where you sit between these two extremes is up to you. Too little, and Freemasonry will have little impact on you. Too much, and it will drain you of time, money, and perspective. Over the course of your life, as your circumstances and enthusiasm change, you will adjust the extent of the resources you put into Freemasonry. I advise you to review at intervals and always make sure you have something in reserve. You will find some Freemasons ask you to commit to more. This is especially true when it comes to joining other lodges or Masonic orders. Other orders are different branches within Freemasonry. They are separate membership organizations, each with their own governance, rules, and structures. They offer extensions and additions to the teaching of the 3 degrees of the craft, and they require membership of a craft lodge and sometimes more as a qualification for joining. You can get a great deal of satisfaction from joining other orders, but they can also take over if you're not careful. One other order has an especial relationship to craft Freemasonry, and it deserves special attention. It is the Royal Arch. The Royal Arch completes the journey you began with initiation and addresses issues raised but not answered in the Master Mason's degree. I encourage you to make time to join a Royal Arch chapter when you're ready. The commitment in both time and money is less than for a craft lodge. However, the depth of learning and the beautiful experience it offers cannot be compared. Thereafter, there are many other orders you could join. Please do not be swayed by flattery or simply accept invitations. Research the orders. Understand what they have to offer and how that connects with your journey so far. Weigh up the pros and cons of joining. Consider the commitment required and how it might complement or conflict with your responsibilities and progression in the craft. Speak to others to get their perspective, always recognizing that they will be on their own journey and have their own questions and preferences to satisfy. Anyone who tells you what you should do may have their own interests at heart rather than yours. Most especially, avoid the overzealous recruiting sergeants who are simply seeking candidates to boost their favorite order. My own experience may be helpful. After my 3rd degree, I joined a new order every year. First was the Royal Arch, and then the Mark. Others followed. 20 years later, I was far too thinly spread. So I trimmed right back and I resigned from most orders. I concentrated on what I consider to be the core of Freemasonry, the craft, the Royal Arch, and Mark, and which I enjoy the most. I've since rejoined a couple of other orders, but I limit my involvement so that I can focus my energies on my priorities. Your own priorities and interests may be different to mine, but the point is the same. There are other aspects of Freemasonry that may attract your attention and interest. The same principle applies. Take time to consider your options, review your existing commitments, and assess the impact the new opportunity will have on them. Consider whether it is aligned to your own reason for being in Freemasonry. Learn to say thank you, but no, that's not for me, at least not at the present time. And that brings me to my final tip. Remember the 3 things you should never do. Now, being a very positive person, I like to explain things in positive terms, hence top tips. However, there are 3 things which I feel are best explained by advising you what not to do. And they're as follows. Number 1, do not fall into debt with your lodge. Your lodge operates on a tight budget. The annual subscription will be set at the lowest feasible level to meet its financial obligations. It relies upon prompt payment of all subscriptions and fees for it to function. If you pay these late, the lodge will still incur costs, which then must be paid from accumulated funds and therefore by other members. It's unfair on your brethren to expect them to pay for you. If you do fall into any financial difficulty and cannot pay any charge on time, please talk to your lodge treasurer in confidence as soon as possible. He will offer whatever help is possible, and if appropriate and if you permit, ask the lodge almoner to assist. Secondly, do not visit another lodge before checking it is recognised by the United Grand Lodge of England. Now, earlier I mentioned there are other organisations which call themselves Freemasons, but which do not meet the standards set by the United Grand Lodge of England. Therefore, these organisations are not formally recognised for the purposes of visiting. Now, fortunately, there are not many unrecognised lodges within our own country. You can be confident that any lodge within a UGLE province is okay to visit. But as soon as we go beyond our own shores, however, the situation is more complicated. Therefore, if you wish to visit a lodge, especially one overseas, first check with your lodge secretary that it is formally recognised. Your secretary will follow a protocol agreed between all Grand Lodges and help you visit a recognised lodge. There are a growing number of online entities claiming to be Freemasonry, but which are not. If they mention the Illuminati, if they claim to be an umbrella or international body for Freemasonry, or a digital version, you can be certain they're not part of what we call Freemasonry. Freemasonry happens in lodges under national Grand Lodges, which work together under a system of mutual recognition. There is no worldwide umbrella organisation covering Freemasonry, and you cannot become a Freemason in the digital realm. Steer well clear of these. And lastly, do not resign without discussing your reasons and the consequences. I started this letter by emphasising that when you became a Freemason, you joined a worldwide fraternity, and that having done so, you're a Freemason for life. In this, it differs from almost everything else you might join. However, you can resign from a lodge. Nevertheless, I recommend you discuss this with others before doing so. If your circumstances have changed and you have less time or money available for Freemasonry, arrange to become what is known as a country member rather than resign. This involves a reduced commitment and cost, and when circumstances allow, you can increase your commitment again. If you're moving from your area, speak to your province's migration officer to find a lodge you can join in your new locality. Delay resigning from your original lodge until you're comfortably engaged with your new one. Even then, consider becoming a country member of your mother lodge. And if you feel you've joined the wrong lodge or are dissatisfied with it in some way, discuss your options with your lodge visiting or liaison officer. They may be able to help you resolve the situation. Failing that, they will help you find an alternative or more suitable lodge, possibly with the help of your provincial membership officer. We have 7,000 lodges in United Grand Lodge. If you are suitable for Freemasonry, there are plenty of lodges suitable for you. So, brethren, these are my 7 top tips for new Freemasons. They're based on my own thoroughly enjoyable and rewarding experience of Freemasonry. They're influenced by my views about our direction of travel and how lodges can adapt to the 21st century, and they're tempered with the insights of many of my followers on Facebook and Twitter. If I were to sum it all up, I would simply say this. As a Freemason, you've joined the world's oldest fraternal and charitable organisation. It has moral and spiritual lessons that have made a deep and positive impact on millions before you, and through them, on the world at large. It offers for you a lifetime of enjoyable, satisfying, and life-enhancing experiences. To reap these benefits, engage, commit, learn, keep searching, and always know your limits. If I was to paraphrase the words of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or my Queen Scout certificate, incidentally gained whilst I was a scout in Gravesend within the province of East Kent, the certificate says, well, rather my paraphrase of it says, I wish you Godspeed on your journey through Freemasonry. May it prove to you a joyous adventure. Brethren, that's the end of my letter. Thank you again for inviting me to speak to you. I now look forward to your questions. And before I hand back, can I just mention my charity fund, which I've been running now since I became a Prestonian lecturer, and all funds that I receive through this are split between the Scout Association and the Masonic Charitable Foundation. So if you've enjoyed the talk, please use the link to give a donation. Anything that you can afford will be thankfully received and faithfully applied. And with that, I'm going to hand back, and so that we can carry on with the Q&A.